This summer, we are going to be traveling through Europe for 2 months, visiting some familiar places, but more excitingly, exploring a whole new set of countries. But instead of flying over the Atlantic, we chose to sail across by a transatlantic cruise.
We are on the ship.
We arrived in England and spent a week driving around the villages along the Cornish coast. We then head south to Turkey and spend 4 days seeing the sights and eating our way through Istanbul.
Wow, it's pretty incredible.
And then explore the otherworldly landscapes of Cappadocia.
Now we know why they call it Love Valley.
We then head north to the former countries of the Soviet bloc. Our first stop is the stoic capital of Sofia, Bulgaria.
And then we have, which I've never seen before, a statue, a monument to a car.
We travel on to Romania and experience both its capital, Bucharest, as well as the smaller towns and countryside of this beautiful country.
It feels like it's very, very storybook, almost like I'm walking through Disneyland.
Before heading to the elegant yet humble city of Budapest, Hungary.
We got some beer.
And ending our Eastern Bloc tour in the country of Slovakia and its charming capital, Bratislava. We cross the border into the west and visit Austria before heading to France to catch our flight home. From serene scenic lakes to the bustle of Vienna, we drive, boat, slide, and ride our way across Austria.
It's nice.
Before ending our trip in the lavender fields of Provence and the beaches of the Côte d'Azur.
How long have you been dreaming of this?
I don't know, but it's sure good.
Mixing old and new, comfortable in the unknown, we hope to have a bunch of new experiences and a lot of fun along the way. After 12 days on board our transatlantic cruise, a week touring around the coastal and inland towns of Cornwall, and the last week spent soaking up both Istanbul and Cappadocia in Turkey, it was time to head north to the former Soviet bloc country of Bulgaria.
Small victories throughout the middle seat.
Okay, we made it to Sofia. It was a long travel day, but really wasn't long. But we were exhausted from it.
The hardest part was each of the flights were pretty short, just about an hour, but we had to transfer in Istanbul, which is a beautiful new airport, but it is massive. And of course, our flight landed on one side of the airport, and our next flight was all the way to the other furthest point. Not only that, but we had to go through immigration again and security again. And our connection time was about an hour and 15 minutes from when our plane landed. So it was very, very tight. We were practically running through the airport, but we made it, yay. But it just did make it a little exhausting.
Luckily we weren't in the back of the plane, but it was still a long process that we had to go through to get to our next flight, which was our last call when we boarded it. So we made it, we're here in Sofia. We were so tired last night, we just got into our little Airbnb here, and which is cute.
I will say it's one of the cutest Airbnbs we've stayed in. Not only that, it's the first time anywhere in Europe that we've in an Airbnb that we've had an actual clothes dryer. So that is like heaven.
Yeah.
So doing some laundry.
Done some laundry. We went out and ate dinner last night, a little local place. and today we're going to go explore Sofia. So it's, we're not sure what to expect. We've seen some of it as we walked here. We'll see it again. We're going to go get some breakfast. That's funny.
It's really good.
Completed in 1912, the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral is one of the largest Orthodox churches in Christendom. Unfortunately, we couldn't take pictures inside, but the interior, albeit dark, is covered in gold mosaics similar to those outside.
So here we are sitting in a park in Sofia, Bulgaria. And for the big city, the capital, it's very quiet, very peaceful. There are these really nice little parks.
Bulgaria loves statues, and as we wandered around the parks, we couldn't go 30 feet without encountering one.
And then we have, which I've never seen before, a statue, a monument to a car.
When there's a German festival, we have beer. The imagery I grew up on, and probably most Westerners did too, was the austere Soviet statues of Lenin and Marx. Keen to see more statues from the Soviet era, we took a train to the Museum of Socialist Art. Despite Google Maps saying it was open, it was actually closed, but Ruth was allowed to walk in just far enough to grab some pictures. Back in central Sofia, we wanted to learn more about Bulgaria's Soviet era, and so we joined a communist walking tour.
According to the communists, these were the most important years. 681 is when the first Bulgarian state was established. 1944, when we became a communist republic.
The tour was fascinating, and we learned a lot. While religion was an outright ban, the communists wanted to show who was in charge in a very symbolic way, by surrounding the churches with imposing communist buildings, deterring parishioners from entering for fear of the secret police.
People don't speak so much about it, but that was one of the scariest doors in the city. Because back in the days, behind still there are some stairs leading into the basement of this building, which was the headquarters of the secret police. And down there were the interrogation rooms when you'd be taken in.
Today, people are allowed to protest without incrimination, though there is still a heavy police presence. One of the most contentious statues in Bulgaria is the monument to the Soviet Army. Most people hate it, but they do have a creative way of showing their displeasure.
Secretly managed to paint these same figures very quickly, within 40 minutes, and they run away because they knew that if they would have been caught, consequences would have been really, really bad.
With communism out and capitalism in, our tour ended in time for a stroll on lively Vitosha Street, as well as a traditional dinner of mishmash and dolmasi. We had planned a tour to visit the Rila Monastery and 7 Rila mountain lakes. Unfortunately, while it was clear skies in Sofia, the lakes were clouded in fog, as we didn't want a repeat of the sadist tour in the Azores from earlier in our trip.
I haven't seen anything like it because we can't see it.
We were able to modify the tour to visit the monastery and the historical Bojana Church. A little over 70 miles south of Sofia, we drove into the countryside, passing through small towns as we headed to the monastery at the base of the Rila Mountains. The Rila Monastery was originally founded in the 900s by Bulgaria's patron saint, St. John of Rila, but the centerpiece of the monastery is the church, which was built in the 1830s. While the interior is dark and covered in candle soot and doesn't allow pictures, the highlight was the outside porch covered in colorful and vivid frescoes, mixing Bulgarian folklore and biblical art full of symbolism, including some violent scenes of sinners.
The woman next to him is getting beaten, and the person to the right is getting stoned.
We spent a couple hours studying the frescoes and wandering around the monastery grounds. After a quick snack of fresh Bulgarian donuts, we jumped back on the bus for the drive to the Bojana Church. While simple on the outside, the Bojana Church houses a series of 13th century frescoes mixing Orthodox and early Renaissance styles. Using perspective techniques, the frescoes have a sense of movement. Unfortunately, like Rila, we could not take pictures inside the church. Oddly, there are a limited number of non-stop flights between Sofia and Bucharest, so we had to backtrack through Istanbul.
Enjoying our Turkish Airlines International Miles and Smiles Lounge. Champagne, we've eaten some amazing food. We have so many different stations here. And now we got baklava to dig into it.
Yummy.
We have made it.
Here we are in Bucharest.
Another new country.
Cute little Airbnb. Small but efficient.
We got our bed, the refrigerator in the room, bathroom, which is actually a decent sized shower. And then the smallest of small kitchens. The best part about it is the balcony. And we have this great view in the city. All in all, pretty happy. Looks pretty good. We're only here for a day and a half, so we've got a lot of exploring to do here in Bucharest before we head up to the countryside. And we better get to it. It's a rickety elevator. We go down, it drops fast. I need to lose some weight.
We walked right outside of our apartment and this is what we see.
The capital of Romania is a city of contrasts. From the French Belle Epoque architecture created in the 1860s by King for Hire Carol I, to the austere Soviet socialist architecture created by communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu. Walking the Old Town, which up until 15 years ago was a dangerous and dilapidated area, we came across these contrasts sitting side by side. While a little rough around the edges, Bucharest is reviving its former glory as the little Paris of the East. Revolution Square was ground zero for the fall of communism in 1989. It was from the balcony of the Internal Affairs building that Ceausescu gave his last speech, before escaping in a helicopter as Romanians stormed the building. Ceausescu and his wife were soon caught, tried on Christmas Day, and found guilty of war crimes, and was executed a few hours later by firing squad. The square memorializes the over 1,000 victims of the Romanian Revolution, with the statues symbolizing their sacrifices. The final place we had to see on our Bucharest trip was the Palace of the Parliament. Built by Ceausescu to show off his power, though he didn't live to see it finish, it's the largest and heaviest building in Europe, sinking a quarter-inch a year. It's also 70% vacant. Today it houses the Democratic Parliament, and when we visited was celebrating National Kids Day with an open house. While some of the kids' activities were dubious in nature, it was interesting to see the interior's opulence and ornate design, especially as it contrasted with the austere exterior and the other Soviet-era buildings. Also, the irony of the visuals of Kids Day and what was the building's original purpose was not lost on us. It's not hard to imagine what the starved Romanians' reactions to it when they were finally let in to see it in 1994. After a long day of touring, we headed to a beer hall in Old Town for a couple of pints. Later that evening, we found a local restaurant for a traditional dinner of mici and dolmasi, as well as the local dessert Papanasi, fried dough, ice cream, and sour cherry sauce, followed by a folkloric show. When planning our trip to Romania, we quickly decided we wanted to spend more time in the countryside than in the big city. As Ruth's ancestral past is from Transylvania in central Romania, it was a place we had to come visit. While we enjoy visiting the big cities, we both love the countryside, and as we left Bucharest, it didn't take us long for us to be in more wide open spaces.
Okay, so what'd you get?
I've been dying for gyros since we got to Istanbul. Didn't get any, and everywhere else we've gone couldn't find it. And so yesterday in Bucharest, there were gyro stores everywhere, but it wasn't time to eat. Now here we are halfway between Bucharest and Sibiu. Got a gyro, though it's chicken. They were out of pork or whatever they used. But it looks pretty good. It's fresh. I'm hoping it's tasty. It's gonna be a mess to eat. I don't know how I'm gonna eat this, but oh jeez. It's gonna get sauce everywhere. Ruth is trying to elegantly eat a gyro right now without getting sauce all over her face and pants.
Stuff everywhere.
Arriving in Sibiu, we checked into our Airbnb and headed into town to explore. I don't know why, but I feel like there are eyes on me. It's kind of creepy. This town's watching me. Built by Saxon German immigrants and anchored by three main squares, ringed with cafes, shops, and restaurants, Sibiu's old town is small and charming, a perfect place to wander, people watch, and take it easy.
This town is so adorable.
So we're just saying how colorful this town is, and Ruth hit upon the right word.
It feels like it's very, very storybook. Almost like I'm walking through Disneyland land.
Storybook land.
Yes.
No, it's so quaint, charming, and cute. Mishmash of what feels like different styles, whether it be German to French to even Russian or Eastern European, obviously because we're here in Eastern Europe, but it's adorable here. I could easily spend a couple of days just sitting here and enjoying the view and doing nothing.
And the eyes are watching you.
The eyes are always watching you.
Yes, they are.
So be on your best behavior. We finished off the afternoon with beers and ice cream.
Good dinner.
Good dinner. This is our dinner. So we're heading to the Transfagarasan Highway in the Carpathian Mountains. There's a lot of snow still up on the mountains, and we know the road is closed. We don't know how far we can get. So we're going to go as far as we can. There is supposedly a cable car that takes us to a lake.
Use sweatshirts and jackets because it'll be much cooler up there.
Yep, but it's hopefully this is rated one of the best drives, best roads
In the world.
That's the most amazing road I've ever seen.
So we'll see how far we can get on the best road and experience it.
And we'll see if we see any bears because apparently there's a lot of bears up here and people see them all the time. So who knows? Maybe we'll see a bear.
Keep driving up.
We'll go as far as we can.
Yeah, this is it.
With the road closed and while you can hike up to Lake Balea, it's a lot easier and nicer to take the gondola. The ride up gives you great views of the waterfalls and the highway. It would have been so much fun to drive up, but as we got higher up the mountain, we saw why the road was closed. At the top, we had a bird's eye view of the amazing road and dreamed of coming back to drive it with a car that's a bit better performing than a Toyota Aygo. Besides being a top driving destination in summer, the lakes and surrounding area are a popular hiking and biking area. Today, still snow-covered, only a few hardy souls were out. The weather system was fast approaching, and as we didn't want to get stuck if the gondola closed, we headed back down. Back at the bottom, we did a short hike to a series of small waterfalls fueled by the snow runoff. After our hike, we were a bit hungry, and the smell of fresh fried dough and garlic drew us into a small cafe by the parking lot. What do we got?
A langoshe, I think is how it's pronounced. And it's like a flatbread with cream and cheese and garlic.
Yum, smells really good.
It smells the garlic. It smells delicious.
Oh my God.
Stop.
Yeah. Buzzing from our amazing bear encounter, we continued down the mountain, passing through some stunningly beautiful countryside, on the way to our next stop, the town of Sighisoara. Sighisoara is one of the best preserved Saxon towns in Transylvania, with fortified walls, towers, decorative squares and buildings, as well as possible connections to Vlad Tepes, aka Dracula. It's a tourist stop favorite. Climbing up the stairs of students, we reached the fortified hilltop church and cemetery. What's interesting is that all these names in the cemetery that we've come across are German or Austrian in nature. So this is really not a Romanian cemetery, but more German, and I guess maybe from when the Austrian-Hungarian Empire ruled here. While pretty, it was very crowded, and as another rainstorm was brewing, we jumped back in the car and headed back to Sibiu for dinner.
On our way to Brasov, I keep saying it wrong. Brasov.
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 So we had a nice little visit to a even sure what it was.
It was built as a castle, but it kind of looked like little fairy cottages, which was really cute. But it was all man-made in the sense that it was more of an attraction versus cute little houses that were originally built in that style, right?
Yeah, it seemed like it was purpose-built for a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
And it was crowded.
There was some other kind of festival or something happening there today because it was packed with people and cars everywhere. So it was cool in its own way, but it was pretty fast in and out.
Brasov is a medieval town tucked into the base of the Carpathian Mountains. With a beautiful square that's the center of town life, a Hollywood-like sign on the mountain, and dozens of places to eat and drink, it not only makes a perfect base to explore the neighboring castles, but it's also just a fun place to hang out. After checking into our Airbnb just outside the city walls, we headed back into town to check it out. So we're in the world's smallest street, or at least the narrowest street, and it's kind of like a big passageway, but they call it a street, and people come here to take pictures. We spent a few hours wandering around Council Square. Kids' Day that we experienced in Bucharest a few days earlier was apparently more like Kids' Week here in Brasov, with a market, bands, and performers. Brasov's other site of note is the Black Church, the largest Gothic church between Vienna and Istanbul. Its nickname stems from the interior being charred from a fire in 1689. Today, after much rebuilding by the local guilds, most remnants of its charred past is gone.
Sometimes you just gotta have a burger.
What do you think of Brasov?
Brasov is an amazing town. It's more of like a small city, has another amazing square that's really beautiful with all sorts of buildings and architecture. May not be on everybody's radar to come here right away, but obviously it's pretty popular enough to where they have a Starbucks. Waiting in a really long line.
That's the line we just stood in.
I got amaretto and cherry, I believe, and ricotta and pistachio.
And I got the banana and chocolate and the mascarpone fig, and I just tasted the banana and chocolate, and it's unbelievable. So good. That was worth the wait. And this is unbelievable. This tastes so good.
And it was like what?
$6.50 for two scoops each
In a waffle cone.
in a waffle cone. In the States, that wouldn't even buy you, I think, 2 scoops in one waffle cone, a regular cone, at Baskin Robbins. So, for one person.
Half hour we waited.
Not even that. It was about 20 minutes. So, certainly worth the wait. Nosferatu, Vlad the Impaler, Dracula. All names associated with the myth and legend of the Transylvanian vampire and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Today we drove south from Brasov to Bran Castle, the inspirational setting for the world's most famous vampire. While it was indeed the home of Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler, the cruel ruler of Wallachia, Bran Castle is actually more of a strategically and defensively built and fortified royal residence than a chamber of horrors. While there is a gauntlet of tacky tourist shops trading on the vampire myth leading up to the castle gates, the actual castle does little to reinforce or even mention the vampire mythology. With no formal tour, we were allowed to wander and explore. While vampirism was downplayed, any good medieval castle will highlight instruments of torture, and Bran Castle was no exception. Having skipped lunch, we were starving. It was time for dinner. A Transylvanian sour soup. Then we have some hot peppers that you're supposed to eat with the Transylvanian sour soup if you're a true Romanian.
And the pork.
And then we have pork rind type stuff, but really not rinds. They're more like fried chunks of pork and red onion. And of course we have our beers and our bread. Okay, with the pepper. We got some peasant potatoes, some sausages, and some stuffed cabbage, stuffed with mincemeat, onions, and then polenta. What am I doing? I don't need to eat more food. It's our final day in Romania, and we headed further south to a completely different style of castle, Peles.
One of the benefits of getting up early and getting places early is there is nobody here.
So we've arrived here at Castle Peles. It is a beautiful setting. Mountains off in the distance. And the grounds here are really pretty too. So hopefully we can buy tickets and get in. You getting a scratch? We had some time to kill before the castle opened, so we checked out the gardens. Built in the 1880s by King Carol I, who moved here from Germany, it's Romania's version of Bavaria's Neuschwanstein Castle. Designed to feel like a German hunting lodge, the inside was as impressive as the outside.
Had to ring the doorbell to get in.
nice little basket of fruit. Only 15 lei, not too much, couple bucks. Dying for some fruit though, so here we have our cute little strawberries and cherries.
We returned to Brasov as there was one more thing we had to do. Gelato for lunch. Can't be beat. We went back to the same place we were at last night. No line this time, and so we had to do it for lunch. Well, I guess there were two more things. Gelato and seeing the Brasov sign up close. While we could have hiked up, a quick cable car ride up the mountain and we were at the sign. Similar to the Hollywood sign, though more accessible. It was fun to walk behind it, and the views of Brasov were epic. Thirsty, we headed back down the mountain for a taste of the local cherry liqueur, which was similar to the ginginha that we tasted in Lisbon last year. So it's our last afternoon here in Romania. We've had an amazing time. And Romania has been beyond expectations. So I had high hopes for it, and it exceeded them. So we're sitting here drinking beer in the main square, which is a perfect way to cap off our afternoon.
I think one of our favorite places we've been, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great.
It's been really
great.
good.
I will miss it.
But we're on to Hungary and Budapest tomorrow. So another new country, another new city, obviously. So excited to see that, see both similarities from our former Eastern Bloc country to also the differences. But till then,
Cheers.
cheers. Our time in Bulgaria and Romania has been surprising. And then we have, which I've never seen before, a statue, a monument to a car. Not knowing what to expect, we found the history of both countries fascinating,
One of the scariest doors in the city.
while falling in love with its food, small town charms, and natural beauty. Next, we travel on to two more former Eastern Bloc countries. Hungary, where we visit Budapest. And walking, we got some beers. And Slovakia's small but engaging capital of Bratislava.
We are going up to the UFO bar.
Before moving into the west and spending a week in Austria.